Okay. Mr. Tankersley?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Coulter?
Here.
Mr. Lovett?
Here.
Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mrs. Knight?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
There you go. Yep.
Approval of the
Thank you. So with regard to Mayor's Court for September 2023, we had a total revenue of $22,554.34, bringing our year-to-date total to $177,176, which is right on pace with where we were last year. The full report will be handed to the clerk for the minutes. Had a fantastic Veterans Breakfast this past month, so super excited about the opportunity to honor those who have served, both from our employees that work for us as well as our city as a whole. We'd love to see more. We know there are a lot more folks out there that have served our country, and so we will continue to beat the drum. I want to give a big thanks to our Representative Davidson, who unfortunately couldn't be here in person because, well, they were looking to shut down the government. So he had to be in D.C., but thanks to our friends at Prestige, they managed to seamlessly bring him in for a great time of just a question and answer for the folks that were there. And it was almost like it was a professional deal that was going on because it worked so well and worked so awesome. So we appreciate him and the time that he gave. Appreciation to all of the city folks that were involved in putting that together, and obviously always the great job the convention center does. Friday night, we hope that you guys have it marked on your calendar, big event down at Depot Square. Anna's here, so I'm going to ask her to come on up and beat the drum for that one, so that you guys know all about it and the public knows all about it. So Anna.
Good evening. So, as Mayor Hardman said, I'm here to talk about Friday the 13th. And what this is thanks to all of you because of your support for the downtown loop streetscape and the first phase that we have done. You know, we had this concept of redesigning Depot Square and Creek Road so that we could start to have a better gathering place to bring community together. And so with that, our first event using this new space, so we did have 4th of July, but new event, is our not so scary Mad Scientist Family Magic Show. So it will be 6 p.m. this Friday at Depot Square. We are also bringing in Miss Mary's Ice Cream Cart, a Sharonville business. So we will have ice cream for those who are young and young at heart. And we hope that many families come down to the square to partake, to enjoy, maybe grab carry-out dinner from some of our loop businesses, grab a Dora beverage, sit outside and enjoy. So bring blankets if it gets cool, and extra chairs. So we hope we have a good turnout.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, I would ask if we could meet in executive session. There won't be any business to come out of it afterwards, but pursuant to G1, and that is to discuss the employment and or dismissal of a public employee.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the mayor? Seeing none, we'll move on to our Safety Service Director, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you. One item before the legislation, Mayor Hardman mentioned the Veterans Breakfast. I laid at each of your seats the challenge coin that Mayor Hardman presented to each of the veterans. Just thought each of you would appreciate having one. On one side is the City of Sharonville logo, on the other side is the logo of each military branch. So, legislation-wise, Ordinance 2023-56E is the third and final reading pertaining to the eminent domain potential action for the US 42 path. I sent an email out this morning about the status of that project. Hopefully, court action will not be needed. Negotiations can still proceed on the very few properties that we still have to settle on, but this is the third reading pertaining to that. Ordinance 2023-61E is an appropriation ordinance. There are two versions at your seats. The original version has two items, a $50,000, bless you, $50,000 appropriation to account for the police donation that was talked about at the last council meeting, $400,000 appropriation that Jim Doughton can discuss his request here in a few seconds, and then the late delivery that we're asking you to consider this evening is including two police vehicle purchases that Chief Nesbitt is here tonight to talk about as well. Chief, do you want to come up first, or Jim? Doesn't matter.
So we've been looking at our budget for next year, and in it, we're requesting two vehicles. We've been trying to work with Ford Motor Company and determine what their availability for cars would be. This year, we ordered two cars at the first of the year, and we have only received one of them. It is likely we won't receive the second one in a timely fashion, and if we do, it will be towards the very end of this year. If that were to happen again, that puts our fleet at risk from a management perspective. But additionally, it's anticipated that the 2023 ordering model year will be open for about 10 days, and that may be coming to us within a week or two. So we would ask to be able to move quickly to secure those vehicles if they're even available. But if we don't place an order with a purchase order, we won't be able to acquire cars most likely in all of 2024.
Any questions, Mr. Clark?
Okay, so if you request X amount of vehicles and we believe there's a chance we may not receive them, is it like a first in, first out FIFO where you put in for two, right? And then for, let's say this year, and then next year, somebody else puts in for two, is our department ahead of them since we've placed the order prior to that, or do they try and get a little bit out to everyone, meet their needs?
I think it's hard for me to answer that because I don't have any control or metrics on Ford's production model. Obviously, this year's strike is really impacting the future production line, but they've also still been dealing with a backlog created by a chip shortage, some COVID delays, so on and so forth. So cars have been very difficult to get. Even unmarked police cars are taking upwards of 14 months for delivery. So it is not uncommon for you to have to wait a very long time for fleet cars. Commercial and cars for the general public are more readily available, but they have a very narrow production line for fleet vehicles. So cop cars in general, or taxi cabs, or the other utility vehicles that they produce have a different production model. So it's hard for me to predict what that's going to be. Based on my information, no, we won't fall behind anybody as long as you get your order in the window. But to guarantee that, they're placed a requirement upon us that no order will be accepted that does not include a purchase order, meaning the money is absolutely allocated, that it's already been authorized and so encumbered.
And what you've requested, is there a benefit knowing that there may be a delay of asking for more? So if you ask for this for next year, right, are you getting a jump in front of everyone else if you ordered more now versus waiting to the next year and so on?
I am not aware of any advantage in doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Ma'am?
Jim, do you want to come up and talk about your request?
Good evening. Proposed legislation appropriations for the convention center equipment and authorization for the purchase of chairs for the convention center exhibit hall under a cooperative purchasing program. Little background, our exhibit hall expansion, as you know, we had a little bit of an increase after COVID and our 18-month delay. In order to keep our number where it was budgeted, we had some items that we had to take out of the project. They were originally in the project, these equipment items, but because we had this big increase, we eliminated those from the project and we made them a alternate, so that if there was money left at the end of the project, we could go get these items. Currently in the construction fund, there's about $354,000 with 3 months to go. The equipment that we are needing, 2,000 banquet chairs, and that's to serve the new hall and to seat up to capacity. 30-foot ceiling scissors lift, and that gives access to our team for electrical drops and equipment for those events. It's 30-foot ceiling instead of the 20-foot ceiling. Our stand-up sweeper, it's 42-inch. To vacuum, it's going to be carpeted. And we initially had $90,000 of allowances for furniture, EMT, and box office, and our construction and architect missed it and did not include it. And that is one of the items that we'll be potentially trying to recoup at a later time. So this basically asks for appropriations of $400,000. There's about a 12-week timeline on some of the equipment, the chairs especially, and the intent is that if we get those dollars returned, or if we have dollars left over, that money will go back and help offset some of these not losses, but some of these higher expenses that we have.
Any questions?
Any questions?
All right, moving to ordinance 2023-62E. David is here to talk about an incentive grant for a company that he's been working with.
Good evening. So I'm here today just to ask council to approve a job creation incentive grant, a 35% reimbursable grant to a company known as ARI Hetra. They're a Warren County-based company that was looking at basically relocating to Sharonville. They just recently signed a 7-year lease with renewal options. They would be moving to the 11163 Woodward Lane facility. The benefit to the city would be basically about 87 in change in terms of payroll tax, and they would be reimbursed a little over $18,000. Pretty high-paying jobs in the mid-70s, looking at about 15, 16 employees right now. And we'd be asking if this would be approved as emergency so that the Safety Service Director could enter into that immediately.
Question? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ordinance 2023-63E deals with a memorandum of understanding between the city and the fire union. Chief Centerman and Rachel are both here tonight to tag team potentially this issue.
Well, hopefully it won't come to that. Good evening, everybody. This is a MOU that is a result of a grievance about mandated overtime, and as we worked through the grievance policy, it just became a matter of the language that was not clear. So this MOU is largely clarifying language as to who we can mandate to stay at work based on the number of hours that they've already worked and the amount of voluntary overtime that they've already picked up. So in large part, not a huge change here, language cleanup and clarification.
Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Chief Nesbitt's here to talk about Resolution 2023 R13E, which is a grant request.
I'm here to request authorization to pursue a grant. Oddly enough, the deadline for it was the 5th, so we have submitted an application for it, as was discussed in Law Committee. However, would clearly want your authorization and blessing to proceed. We're requesting or submitted a grant proposal for $147,500. $49,320 of that would be for equipment, and $98,136 would be related to employee expenses. That through the body-worn camera grant through the state, and that basically helps support our body-worn program that the city has endorsed and is funded. However, this grant would help save the city some money. So we thought it was worthwhile pursuing. We won't know until July if we get any award, or maybe a month or so before that, but we're hopeful that we get at least a portion of our request.
Great. Any questions? Thank you.
And then concerning Resolution 2023-R14E, back in June or July, council adopted the tax budget for 2024. That was forwarded to the county's budget commission. They sent back their certification. So this is a resolution now accepting the rates as approved by the budget commission for what we're very proud of, 0 property tax mills.
Yay.
And that's it for the legislation.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Lucas tonight? Seeing none. My report this evening is all about Student Government Day. It is a go, so we will be having dinner at 6:30 at the Convention Center on the 23rd. On the 24th, starting at 8 a.m. with a little breakfast, meet and greet. We're going to be here, and then I will send out a daily schedule because I have to create it. We'll change up. We're not going to be eating at the firehouse. We're going to eat at the police station. So if the kids are bad, we're just going to lock them up and make them eat bread and water instead of putting them in a large fire engine. So we're going to change that up just a tad bit. But then the kids will be here for our council meeting, and they will have their own council meeting at 7 p.m. And if you were here last year, it was quite a treat, or the last time, it was quite a treat. We do have 3 young men that brought us up to our numbers, so I would really like to let them know that we appreciate them. Mr. Etterling, Mr. Hardman, and Mr. Coulter all decided to come back and do this one more time because we needed numbers, so that was very kind of them. Right now we have 10. We are still looking for more students that want to take part in this. It's an excused absence from school, and it's really a cool thing to get to know how your city runs. It's a really cool thing to sit up here, just to get a feel for it. I think 2 or 3 of us up here actually were in the program when we were in high school, which was over 40 years ago for me, so that makes a difference. So you never know who it might spur, who it might want to be up here or want to do this or learn more about their community. So I'm really excited that we are able to do it. So mark that all on your calendars, and I will get the agenda and everything out for everyone. And that's all I have. We'll move on to our Clerk of Council, Ms. Buhite.
No report.
Perfect. Law Director, Mr. Lippert.
Thank you, Madam President. Unless anybody has any questions, I don't have any report.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Any questions? Seeing none. Residents that wish to be heard this evening. You're good? Are you sure? How about you, ma'am? Nope? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Sharpshire, for coming. I love it when our residents show up. Council committees, community development, Mr. Wilson.
Yes, there is a meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals at 6:30 tomorrow night. I believe there's 4 items on their agenda, and will be followed immediately by a meeting of the Planning Commission. I believe there are two items on their agenda tomorrow night.
Perfect. Thank you. Community services, Mr. Lovett.
Thank you. Report is on file with Ms. Buhite. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Budget, Finance, and Project Oversight, Mr. Cook.
Thank you. The Budget and Finance Committee met this evening, and we covered 2 topics. One was the budget for the Convention Center, and we discussed there's interest in essentially getting some additional revenue by renaming the Convention Center, so some advertising, maybe renaming a hall and so on. I won't go into great depth into that. I know administration will discuss it further during our budget hearing, right? And then we do not have any other budget finance meetings for the remainder of the year.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
And for project oversight, no report, but our next meeting will be December 12th at 6 p.m. in the administrative conference room. Thank you.
Perfect. And we do have our budget hearings, or our budget. Yes, okay. Just so everybody knows, you do need to come November, I think it's November 9th. So, honored citizens, Mrs. Knight.
Yes, tonight I'm honoring all Sharonville breast survivors, including our president of council, Vicki Hoppy. She's doing great. So don't forget to think pink all month. Thank you.
And there are pink cookies over here with napkins. Please help yourself while we're chit-chatting up here. Feel free. Law and Public Safety, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. The next meeting will be October 17th, 4 p.m. Administrative Conference Room.
Thank you. Rule suspension motion, first and only reading with immediate effectivity. But before I do that, let's do the late delivery of our ordinance 202361E. Is there a motion to accept late delivery? So moved by Mr. Coulter, second by Mr. Tankersley. All those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. And we'll go into our rule suspension. First and only reading with immediate effectivity is ordinance 2023-61E, 2023-62E, 2023-63E, resolutions 2023-R13E, and resolution 2023-R14E. Is there a motion? So moved by Mr. Lovett, second by Mrs. Knight. All those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. And we'll go on to our unfinished business.
Okay. The third reading of emergency ordinance 2023-56E, directing the filing of petitions to appropriate various fee simple interests with reservation of access, standard highway easements, and temporary easements as a quick take for the public purpose of improving U.S. Route 42, a public roadway open to the public without charge in the city of Sharonville, Hamilton County, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2023-56E? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Schmidt. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Emergency ordinance 2023-56E has been approved. Welcome. Second reading of emergency ordinance 2023-58, amending the penalty for short-term rental violations. And a second reading of ordinance 2023-59, authorizing the disposal of surplus equipment. And that's it for new unfinished.
New business?
All right. Sorry,
Oh, you're fine.
went with the late delivery. First and only reading of ordinance 2023-61E, amending 2023 appropriations for the various funds and authorizing the Safety Service Director to make purchases through cooperative purchasing programs or state bidding and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2023-61E? So moved by Mr. Wilson, second by Mr. Lovett. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-61E has been approved. First and only reading of emergency ordinance 2023-62E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a job creation incentive grant for ARI Phoenix, Inc., just doing business as ARI Hetra, and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2023-62E? So moved by Mrs. Knight, second by Mr. Coulter. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Emergency ordinance 2023-62E has been approved. First and only reading of emergency ordinance 2023-63E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a memorandum of understanding, which the Council of Sharonville hereby approves, modifying the collective bargaining agreement with Sharonville Professional Firefighters IAFF Local 4498 for the currently effective bargaining period to define the application of Article 20, Section 3.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2023-63E? So moved by Mr. Lovett, second by Mrs. Knight. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Emergency ordinance 2023-63E has been approved. First and only reading of emergency resolution 2023-R13E, resolution ratifying the Safety Service Director's submission of an application for a grant through the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass resolution 2023-R13E? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Wilson. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Emergency Resolution 2023-R13E has been approved. First and only reading of Resolution 2023-R14E, resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass resolution 2023-R14E? So moved by Mr. Coulter, second by Mr. Lovett. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley? Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Resolution 2023-R14E has been approved.
It's another opportunity for residents to be heard this evening. Seeing none, are there any other oh, sorry. So, hey, you go, girl.
Well, I realize that we have one more event coming to our square this month, and it is before our next council meeting, not after.
Oh.
So I should go ahead and talk about that one too, because
That
we're
would
going to
be
guess that
awesome.
Friday the 13th is going to be so successful that we've already planned for another. So on Saturday, October 21st, we're having our family Halloween movie night. The event will be 6:30 to 8 on the downtown Depot Square. The movie will be It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. It's about a half hour. It will start at 7:30. So, you know, we're going for a nice, short, easy, bring the kids. But we're also going to have the S'more Fun food truck. So if you happen to have stopped by the Employee Appreciation event that was back in August, this is the same food truck. We will have popcorn and marshmallow sucker treats for all, as well as the s'mores, create your own s'more bar.
It's amazing.
Yes, it is. And then we also hope to have like some decor out, like some hay bales, some pumpkins, some mumpkins, all that, so that, you know, parents can bring their kids down and also get some pictures. So we hope they all come and have fun. So thank you.
Yeah, we don't want to come and have council on trick or treat night, so we moved it. We threw you off a little bit. Sorry. Okay. All right. Any other matters to be heard before council this evening? Then we will have, is there a motion to go into executive session regarding, for the Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 to consider employment? Is there a motion? So moved by Mr. Wilson, second by Mr. Tankersley. I'm going to assume we're inviting the,
All elected, Ms. Combs, Chief Sunderman,
and Mr., okay. All right, if everyone would please go. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, roll call.
That's okay.
We have to do the roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.